I'm going to talk for about 10 minutes or so on some aspects of psychology and neuroscience that support people's happiness, their success, their well-being, that I think particularly apply to the work we do as outdoor practitioners. It's going to be quite fast, just a few ideas that you might like. I don't know. The first idea is just to reiterate that survival is not the same as well-being. There's a tradition within psychotherapy of classifying, categorizing, and spending lots of energy working out what's wrong with people. I know, I spent 5 years studying it, and I felt that I knew what was wrong with people in great detail, but not so much about what was right with people. And it's worth remembering that the absence of illness is not well-being. That's just average. So I'm interested in what makes it such that people thrive, flourish, live a positive, happy life as a society, as an individual. It's worth pointing out that brains change. And if we can create the neurological conditions for brains change, people's minds change, and then people change. It's not rocket science, but it's worth remembering. The other thing that I think is worth remembering, that all dolphins are nice. Would anybody agree? How much agreement do I have that all dolphins are nice? The ones you've met? Yeah. And I think the thing about dolphins is that most of our research about dolphins being nice comes from the idea that we read stories in the paper about dolphins who've looked after surfers. There was one earlier in this year about dolphins who kept a swimmer in the Straits off New Zealand safe over an 8-hour swim. Unfortunately, it's kind of biased information because all the dolphins that eat swimmers never report to us. And it's worth remembering in the outdoor world, we as a community tend to think that what we do is really good. And we shouldn't forget that not all dolphins are nice. Possibly. So the question is, what makes life worth living? If we're going to encourage people to have a life worth living, what is it? And I was pleased to discover that I'm not the first person to ask this question. In fact, you probably asked it yourself at some stage. About 10 years ago, a group of scientists, psychologists, got together and asked themselves that question and wondered whether they could start defining what makes life worth living. Could they create some definition that was measurable, testable, so that if we could define it, we could then take action towards helping it? Of course the answer is yes, otherwise I wouldn't be doing this bit. Do you want to know? It's a secret. No. These 5 things are measurable qualities that are what makes life worth living. Positive emotion. Feeling good. Engagement, connection, flow, being in an activity, having relationships with other people. There is a strong correlation between happiness and having relationships with other people. You can't tell whether it's if you're happy you have a lot of relationships, or whether if you have a lot of relationships you're happy, but there's a very strong correlation between the two things. Meaning, having some purpose to your life. Having a sense of what's it about for you, and the ability to achieve things. All of those things are possible, and all of those things I believe outdoor learning provides an excellent platform for encouraging and helping people enjoy. I'm just going to dive into a couple of them in detail. The first thing about relationships, some of you may know and be familiar with these relationships. They're often known as the solar ratio, and it's around how much positive is enough? Well, it turns out that it needs to be about 3 to 1 or more. So in any relationship, any connection, any team, for it to thrive, flourish, work well, it needs to have a balance of 3 to 1 positive. Note that it's not 3 to 0, that is 3 to 1. It is developmental. I remember I was working with a group a few weeks ago, and we'd been out in the hills of the Lake District, ambling around the countryside, doing lots of outdoorsy things, and we came back and put a bit of flip chart paper on the floor and said, on paper, tell me about the story of your last 2 days. Just draw pictures, write anything, capture everything that's the story of your 2 days. So they wrote away for a few minutes, and then I said, right, count up the number of positive things on there and the number of negative things. Okay, they said we can do that. And then we looked at the ratio. It's abysmal, it's 1 to 1. The best group, they were split into little mini groups. The best group got like 1.5 to 1. They all had their little phones out with them. What interesting thing happened is that I then said, well, go and think back again about the 2 days again and add more things onto it. Because your aim is to get to 3 to 1. And some very interesting things happened as they started to look again and add a greater variety of the positive memories that they hadn't first captured. 5 to 1 is a ratio that's held true for relationships. So if you're in a close relationship with somebody, 5 to 1 positive to negative. I do try and tell my wife it's not the other way around. 5 to 1 positive, predicts a long-lasting relationship. And can you be too positive? For all of the pessimists out there who think, you can be too positive, so you're correct, you can be too positive. Anything over 11 to 1 just becomes too much. So the 1 becomes really important. Just too much positive is too much. So you could think about the sort of interactions and relationships that you have with people in your work, and what sort of ratio do you engender, and do you support people to have? Engagement or flow experience comes from a match between a high skill level and a high challenge. So if you want to create engagement for people, you need to balance the two things out. It's not enough to give them a high challenge without the skills to approach it. It can be worth looking at the way some activities, and some of the more challenging activities in our sector we might provide, and to wonder whether are we actually asking people to do those with the skill they have to achieve them. If we're not, we're missing an opportunity to get engagement for them and to have them live a happier, more successful, more fulfilled life. Here's another idea. It's a different colour and everything. Emotional systems are hardwired. Research has suggested that we have within us emotional systems that are how we are. They're not responses to situations, they are us. There are 7 identified emotional systems. And they are hardwired into us, and one of the challenges of being human is to enjoy all of them. The good news is, 4 of them are really nice. So that's okay. The less than good news is that 3 of them need managing. But they exist to help us survive. So, I guess you're wondering what they are? Nah, I'll stop now. So care-seeking and play systems give rise to well-being chemicals and positive emotion. So Neurologically, our brain operates with systems that help us take care of people, that help us seek and search out opportunities and do things and learn and grow and play and interact and try things out. Our brains are wired like that. It's nice to reward it. I'm going to have a go at seeing if I can turn those systems on with a short video. Okay? See, we have this inbuilt seeking desire to just look at things that come out of our body. We do it as humans, mammals do it as well. It's just sometimes we hurt ourselves more than we intended. That's obviously the serious part of my speech. Rage, fear and panic systems give rise to stress hormones, fight, flight or freeze responses. It's a natural emotional system that we might find that we turn on through the experiences we provide with people. The good news is, neurologically within the brain, the care system particularly is a massive antidote to the turning on of the rage, fear and panic systems. The care system releases oxytocin. Those who are familiar will know that that's often known as a bonding hormone. It keeps people close together. It's released when people make physical contact. So, when people are in rage, fear and panic, physical contact is a really helpful thing. At a practitioner level, that means choose the energizer, the activity that you do carefully, and you can help people learn to manage their rage, fear and panic systems when they're activated. Another way that you can do it, and I'd like to practice this in just a moment, is to savour experiences. In our growth and development, certainly in our brains, one of the things that was important to us is that we didn't get eaten by things that wanted to eat us. That's fair enough. So evolutionary, some of the neurological links that we grew up with thousands of years ago were aimed at spotting danger so that we could run away from it or play dead. So we have a negative bias in how we look at situations. It's just how we're wired. So having a positive experience is not enough to change the way your brain is wired. Just simply having an experience is usually not enough. What it needs to have is some intensity. It needs to be savoured, it needs to be enjoyed. And it can be as minimum as a couple of dozen seconds. So let's try. First thing is, I'd like to think about an experience maybe in the last week or so that is a really positive, pleasant experience for you. Just think about it into your head. Just bring one to mind. Just think about it. You've had the experience. Now enrich it. Go inside it. See what you were seeing. Hear what you were hearing. Feel how it felt. Replay it in your mind. Sink into the positive emotion. And as you sink into the positive emotion, let the positivity sink into you. Seems simple. Rick Hansen, who is on the bottom of there, developed a treatment program therapeutically where this was the essence of what he did. People were less depressed in 6 weeks from savouring positive experiences, clinically proven in his research. And yet, I think the outdoors provides wonderful positive emotions, and yet there's a great opportunity for us making the most of them and savouring them for people's benefit. Character strengths underpin happiness, success, and well-being. One of the things that came out of some of the psychology research 10 years ago was the idea that what does it mean when we're at our best? Well, one definition is it means that we're using those strengths of character that are unique qualities to us. And there was a lot of research went into, well, what are those strengths of characters then that make it up? It came out with a list of 24. And each of us will have a set of those, a collection of those, maybe 5 or 6, that are our signature strengths. They're us. They're us at our best. We're energized, we're enthused, we're excited. We like to use those strengths. And having defined those strengths, psychologists were then able to look at, well, what happens when we use them? Does it lead to good things? Well, you'll be pleased to know the research is good. So the character strengths that consistently and repeatedly, not just one-off, across lots of people, these are cross-cultural, these are cross-age group, life satisfaction, hope, zest, gratitude, curiosity, and love. If we develop those within the people we work for, we work with, we help, maybe the people who are our staff, maybe just anyone we meet, if we help them develop those strengths of character, they will consistently and repeatedly show increases in life satisfaction. That's nice. And therein lies a great opportunity for the field of outdoor learning, because I think it's starting now to provide some evidence that the sorts of things that outdoor learning provision can help with lead to measured outcomes that are of benefit. Here's another one. If you want academic achievement in school, perseverance, love, gratitude, and hope are the ones to go for. Perseverance, sometimes called grit. I think outdoor learning is well placed to develop those strengths of character within people. Final bit of research from strengths. The gratitude attitude makes you happy. If you'd like it a little bit more written in a scientific, practicing gratitude, yeah. Optimistic life. I like my first question. Is proven. So one thing I'd like you to do is just turn to the person next to you and share 5 things you're grateful for. And notice what happens. Okay? Go. Like with anything with your mind, if you want to learn to do anything, learn any skill, repetition rewires your brain. Just doing this once won't necessarily cure all unhappiness in your life. But if you do it every day for a month, things will significantly change. So my last bit of brain research that's useful to know. Exercise boosts your brain power. Evolutionary-wise, our brains were built for walking about 12 miles a day. It works best when it's moving and functioning. And if that's not the biggest encouragement to get outdoors and do some learning, I don't know what it is. Thank you very much.